What's your name?
What?
What is your name?
Phil!
Fuck you, Phil!
What's your name?
Outlaw!
Well, fuck you, Outlaw!
Fuck you!
Fuck you!
Fuck you! You know what I did last night?
You better not bring my mother into this!
You know what I did?
You better not!
I built that fire over there!
Oh!
And I fucked your mother next to it!
Well, fuck you, Outlaw!
Fuck you! Together on my backpack, I'm like, that elk leg doesn't scare me, bro. Fucking mad. I can feel the Navy SEAL. Scared of the fucking elk leg. Did you hit it?
Don't know. Can't see it.
Bullshit. We shoot at shit that's not there. In the current conflicts that we've seen right now going on in the world, regardless of where you stand on them, what your beliefs are, politics, we should be there, we shouldn't be there, it doesn't matter. The truth is there is something to learn from every conflict, and we as professionals, learning to be professionals, should always take the time to learn what we can from a conflict, whether we agree with it or not. Why should we pay attention to Phil?
You probably shouldn't.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
His nickname is Silent Bob, and his hair is flowing today.
That's great out here in the dry air. It looks good. I spent 8 years in the Navy with NSW, part of a Recce element. So I got quite a bit of time doing stalking through similar vegetation to this and terrain. I think it's just something that's super cool. I'm super into it. I love the idea of the stalk and shooting long range over mountains. And today that's what we're gonna kind of cover is not just painting your rifle, but vegging things up, getting into position, vegging us up, the rifle, the tripod, building a system that will protect us from eyes so that we, in the event of are doing something like this, wherever you may be, you have the edge, and that's what we're looking for.
Phil, please tell me, why don't we want a black rifle?
Yeah, so black sticks out in almost any natural environment, first and foremost, daytime. Straight lines stick out, and what are you holding right there? A bunch of black straight lines. So that's why we talk about maybe looking at where we're actually operating. So if I'm in the Midwest, I'm probably gonna go with something like OD green on a base coat for a gun. We're out here in the mountains. This can get us pretty close to where we need to be already compared to that. And another consideration is under nods. So night vision's becoming a huge part of the civilian world because it's becoming more affordable. If you have a set of nods, take something black outside and put it out there next to something that's a shade of a tan or a green and look at it, and you'll see real quick that black just pops really fast. So if I were to buy a gun, the only reason I would get a black gun anymore is if that's all the company made that I wanted, or if it was on sale, and then I'm just gonna paint it.
Let's start with, I have a lot of options for Recce rifles, so there are no wrong answers. You could take this Cobalt right here with a custom barrel with a Schmidt & Bender 3-20 in it. You could pick this Cobalt with a custom barrel with a Schmidt & Bender 1-8, or we can pick this Daniel Defense, which is what I'm choosing for this project, with a Night Force 4-60, something like that. It has a Trimmer 3 reticle in it. The only thing I changed in this gun was I put a Geisley SSAE trigger in it. I like the SSAE.
Yeah.
And then everything else, I have a Cobalt Scrambler can on there. And so you're already asking, dude, why did you pick this gun, or why are you painting an expensive gun? All of these guns are retail about the same price. The optics retail at different prices, but they're not toys for me. They're not, like, I don't care if when I show up that you think my gun is brand new. Right? It doesn't matter to me. And I'm going through a deal as a YouTuber where I go through a lot of different guns and gear, and because of the current state of the world, I decided that I need to tighten my stuff up and be a little more professional. And so I've chose this rifle because it's light. I chose a light can for it. It's Inconel, so it doesn't flash. So if I'm up here in the mountains, you know, a lot of times you guys think that a conflict is I actually see the people that I'm shooting at. Is that
not always the case?
Not always the case. What are we shooting at?
noises, sounds, general direction where we would think someone is shooting at us from or where they are.
Flashes. I mean, we could be here, and if this was a combat zone right now, you would see flashes if they didn't have a silencer or suppressor on their gun, or a good flash hider. I know you guys argue, I know you guys love to argue, but if you literally look at the military requirements, the first thing whenever they're buying a new suppressor is flash. The second thing is first round pop. Then the third thing is sound. If you guys have ever used a Surefire RC2 SOCOM, you can't really shoot it very much without earmuffs. Right. It's freaking loud. Or you can take all these modern new cans that are figuring it out that just never got that lobbyist military contract. And I'm not saying Surefire's not good. They are good. I've got a lot of Surefire cans. If Phil and I were out here and it's me versus Phil, he's gonna shoot at my flash, because you're gonna see in this series of Recce videos, I'm gonna disappear out here, and the only thing you're gonna have is flash, or sound, or direction. So it's a really important thing. So I chose this rifle for that. I could choose a lot of rifles. Purpose of this video is not the rifle. The purpose of this video is disappearing. So why are we not just gonna leave this rifle dark brown?
This is actually a really good base coat color for this. Like, we have the tan, and then I don't know what they call this, burnt something, I don't know what it is, but this brown here, if we look at like a backdrop that we're sitting against up here, we have a lot of this this dirt is pretty tan. It's like a really khaki tan, but the undertone colors of brown and green are gonna blend this gun into the vegetation, and more importantly, as we watch you kind of morph into this disappearing guy, the shadows are gonna be your best friend. So when we have a darker color to start with that isn't black, we can kind of camo it up a little bit easier without putting a whole coat of paint on there, brown and green. So we're just gonna dust this with some green because the brown's good, and then we're gonna paint it with some of the natural stuff out here.
I mean, just going over it, tape up the important things on your optic. That's up to you. Guys, I've seen people do it all different ways. I've had friends that were on Recce teams that they painted over their numbers, because you can still see them, they're engraved. And if that's what you wanna do, cool. We taped this up because I like to see them just a little bit better. Everything about this, how much you wanna go into it, is up to you. I remember there are people that I see that do, like, they'll take time and alcohol wipe their gun, and that's not wrong. For me right now, what I want to try to convey to you guys, especially why we have Phil, is paint your stuff for every environment and use a lot of paint. Like, paint is your best friend, right?
Yeah, we want to break up that natural silhouette of the gun. So that's what ends up ultimately giving us away, is our silhouette, which is why the Viper hoods and netting come into play, and then the gun, because it's the most unnatural thing out in nature is straight lines. You just don't see them.
Let's paint this thing. There are no wrong Recce rifles. You can choose any Recce rifle you want. Yes, I realize some of these are expensive. I've chosen this Daniel Defense. The reason I chose it, it's the DD M4 V7. I've done different things to this rifle. I've had it for a while. I've changed the stock, I've changed the grip, and then I changed the trigger to a Geisley SSAE because I like the SSAE a lot. And what I found, oddly, is I keep coming back to the way that it's configured, and I like it. I like it for my precision shooting. And you could get 20 rifles that are the same, come from the same factory, same gun, and all of them are gonna shoot just a little bit differently. Like the barrel is like, it's its own fickle, crazy ex-girlfriend you had. Like, some of them you like, some of them you don't like, some of them you... Either way, they're like, all barrels are not equal. They don't all shoot the same, even when they come from the same place. This one is a hammer. I mean, it is an absolute hammer. The scope that I have on it right now, the mount's a Night Force mount. The scope is the Night Force ATACR. I realize this stuff is expensive, guys, and sometimes we don't want to paint expensive stuff, but I'm not selling this. This is just, it's just what it is. Nobody sponsored any portion of this portion of the video. I have literally purchased every bit of this. The bipod is a Harris bipod with the old Alamo 4-star stuff on it, so I suppose that's like a collector's item now. This is just a rig that works really well for me. The only thing I'm adding, I had to order another one, is I'm gonna add an offset red dot to it so that I can turn it sideways. We have some other stuff coming for it, but right now this is probably one of my favorite choices for a Recce rifle, and you guys know, as a YouTuber, we have to change stuff around so much. What I'm trying to do, because of the current state of the world and all of the current conflicts that are happening, is making this look like I need to be just a little bit more prepared. And so I'm literally tactically squaring myself away. Hats off to you, Nuttin. If you guys don't know who Nuttin Fancy is, because you're that younger generation, go check him out. Us Fuds might know a thing or two, but all right, let's get to painting this.
So out here in the high mountains, we got a lot of green shrubbery, and we also have a lot of this light khaki tan, almost like white dust. We already have a dark brown base coat, which we talked about on the gun. We're gonna just hit this with some green, and then we're gonna focus a little bit more on the scope, getting that colored up to match the rifle. Now, like with these DD rifles, they got a lot of rubber on the actual accessories, the buttstock grip and then the foregrip. That rubber's not gonna take paint super well. I'm not entirely worried about that. I wanna get the plastic covered as much. It'll just rub off faster. So if you end up getting some paint on your cheek, that's what it's from. So we're gonna start green on the body of the gun and then brown and green on the scope. And we're gonna just work that same kind of crisscross standard pattern that we see on most camouflage. It doesn't have to be like super crazy. And you can try different things out when you paint your guns and see like what works, because it's just another coat of paint. And one thing when we did the tripod video too is we don't want to just blast the gun with paint. So what we've done is we've taped up, like I like to see the numbers on here. That's never going to be an issue for me, like where I get seen, because I'm going to end up vegging this thing up anyways. So I'm going to have bands on here with some natural veg on it. But I do like to cover up like the internal parts. I don't want to get paint into the actual upper receiver there. And then I close the buffer tube, because if we put too much paint on that, you end up either buying a new one or getting some turpentine to take it off, which is lessons I learned the hard way. So again, we're just using Rust-Oleum, green, brown, khaki, and this lighter, I don't know what this is called, grass green or whatever. So I'm gonna do that same kind of crisscross. Not like super scientific. If I see where I did a little like too much, I'm just gonna go back and hit it again of like one color. So if I got too much green in one area, I'm just gonna throw some brown on there.
Guys, one of the things that I wanted you to see is I've seen so many YouTube guys that, and I'm not calling anybody out, but I've just seen so many take so much time and care and you know, the perfect painting of your gun with Krylon. What I wanted you to see is that Phil is spent 8 years in the Navy. He just retired. He was on the Recce team. So you know the Recce team also contains your snipers. Your snipers are in the Recce team. He's a SEAL sniper. But look what we're doing. This is not some big expedient, like we're not spending hours and hours and hours of wiping this thing down. We're just getting the paint on it so that it breaks it up and gets in here, and then we got to go to work. Like you don't have hours and hours and hours and days and days and days to dick with this. Like the point of this is, Travis Haley did a great one. If you guys go watch Travis's video, like that's a recon Marine that understands like we got to get out here, we got to get it done. And that's the point of this. Overthinking this is a problem.
Say I had to do something like super quick, right? Hey, I gotta grab it and just throw a coat on. We can see the difference between just like that straight black and a two-tone, just green and brown. We haven't even added the khaki yet, which is the main color that we're gonna need out here. But this is gonna blend so much better because we're breaking all that natural lineup on the gun, taking the black out of it. So to me, it's totally worth it, man. Like Trey said, if you're not gonna sell the gun, shit, nowadays you probably sell them painted for more than you got them when they're black. But if you're not gonna sell the gun and you're gonna put the time into buying something and building it out for a specific thing, like you have your house, your home defense guns, you got your long range precision match guns, and then you wanna build like a Recce rifle, build it out the way you want it and use it. Like paint it up, color it up. It's totally worth it. For $100, they'll clean it off for you at a gun shop anyway. So super quick. By the time this side's dry, we'll be done painting the other side too. So we'll flip it around and do that.
Okay guys, so this is the spotting scope. This is a loopholed, I think it's the gold ring, but it does have a older trimmer. I think it's the H59. I really like long range shooting having a reticle inside there. What I'm trying to do now is black stands out, gold stands out. I'm just trying to make sure that I get all of this. And I'm not, like, I didn't use a bunch of alcohol or anything because, you know, people are like, in America right now, because we're a very consumer based industry, which is, it is what we are. Like, it's not a bad thing, it is what we are. We think everything has to be brand new or it's no good. And so people are really scared to paint stuff, paint their guns, paint their spotting. I'm not. Like, I'm preparing this for a real world possibility. And in a real world possibility, notice there's no real sharp colors. There's no real vibrant colors. It's just nature, which is very beautiful, but you have to match it and fall into line with it, and you got to do it as good as you can. And if you have little nicks and scratches on it, that's okay because that's natural. But it's really important that you stay really hidden, because what you're asking to do as a recce team or reconnoitering is you're trying to get in there and you're trying to get out. You're not trying to get in a gunfight. You're not trying to be seen. You're not trying to be heard. Now we have to start worrying about thermals and drones, thermal camera, there's just so much that will make you stick out that you have to be prepared for. You need to be concealed the best you can.
Probably endangered New Mexico grass, felony charge.
You're going to jail.
So you're just looking for the most common?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab like 3 to 4 of the most prominent vegetation, trees or bushes that I see in the area, and we can only match the color so good.
In case you guys have forgot, one of the biggest things for on a recce kit is your veg clippers, and you gotta paint them.
Yeah, and you might want to spend a little bit more money on those. Like go up a level. So if they're 20 bucks, maybe drop the 35 on them, because you want something that's gonna cut at least an inch. I would say is a good thing. They make 1/2 inch and 3/4 or 3/8, and that's gonna leave you with very minimal amount of veg that you can chop if you want something a little bit bigger. If you wanted to build a hide in front of you with some larger stuff, you can cut inch branches around. All right, so we've cut our 4 main pieces of veg that we find out here, and Trey knows these. We've got juniper, pine, what'd you call it,
Greasewood.
Greasewood, and then it's like a cactus grass. So we're just gonna lay these out and kind of hit them with the tan and this light green to kind of try to match as best as we can the natural vegetation that's out here. So we don't have to go super crazy. It's like a Bob Ross painting. There's only happy mistakes. We can always fix things. I want to keep as much of that undertone as possible. Otherwise we would just painted the gun straight tan and called it. So the key to this is to try to get it as close as possible and keep the paint away from it, so that we just break that pattern up a little bit. And some of these aren't gonna give you exact look of this, so what we can do is press it down with our hands and go kind of over it, and it gives us a little bit more of the pattern. If we leave like a pine branch just setting up like that, the paint is gonna go through all of it. So press it down to get that pattern. Your hands are gonna get a little painty, and that's all right.
So whether or not you're going to put a suppressor cover on,
Yeah.
you want to paint it.
Yeah. Suppressor covers are key, not just for like heat signature on the actual can under thermal, but also when we start shooting long range and we get that can starts getting hot, that mirage will really push out off of the can. It makes it really difficult to get good reticle focus. The mirage off of a suppressor will really screw up our ability to shoot long range. So yeah, highly recommend suppressor covers. Notice I'm just picking like little sections here that I feel like are a little too dark, and I'm just hitting them with the different veg. Where's my pine at? Where's my pine go?
How long do y'all spend on camouflage education?
It depends. Like, if you go to sniper school, it's heavy camo, like lessons. The teaching comes from in the field. So if I were to do a stalk, it's kind of set up where you come downhill with limited veg knowledge, limited paint knowledge, and you see how quickly you get caught with just buying like a Viper hood and paint on the gun and paint on a tripod. And you learn real fast what was seen and what wasn't. So then you kind of build your recce kit off of that. So I put more rubber bands on my Viper hood. I vegged up my boonie cover. I added a few more rubber bands to the gun, and all of those things were based on instructors taking pictures and kind of showing you like, hey, this is why you got caught here, and it helped big time. So that's why I always like to say, like, go out with your buddies and train with them and have them just get on glass and look to see what they're seeing on you as you build out something like this, because what you think may work may not. It might be cool in theory until you put it into practice and you go, wow, that was like really messed up. I should have done all these things differently. So now we're switching over to that like grass green, and this will give it a little bit more of that dark natural veg color in there. Just lightly going over where we already had the tan and then some of the other brown and light green. I don't want to go too heavy. Certain colors that I don't find a lot of out here, like we do see some green in like these, whatever these are, grease bushes, and then the pines and the juniper have a lot of green. It's a little bit of a different green. We can get it as close as possible, and we can also do that by blending some of this lighter with the dark. So I'm gonna hit it again with the dark green to kind of match more of that shaded, shadowed area, but I wanna get that base coat of brown and green on there so I can touch it up with tan and light green, and then I will play with it enough to get it where it blends with the shadows and the natural veg that's out here. All right, so one consideration, that green that we picked up, there's 5 colors of Krylon, or Rust-Oleum, whatever they are. And I think Krylon has a little bit of a darker khaki green, which would have been ideal for out here. We couldn't find it. So we got this green. If you look in the sun, you can kind of see how that green actually sticks out a little bit. It's a little too, I don't want to say neon, but a little too green. We're gonna touch that area up with a little tan and then that dark green to close this side out. But once we get into the shadow, it's a little brighter than I would like it to be. So I'm gonna hit it with some of that dark green. Ideally, we wanna be in a shadow, not hanging it out in the sun. So this is where I'll test that camo and go, all right, do I have too much tan on it? Do I not have enough green? Do I need more brown and more forest green? So you got an idea of what it looks like in both environments. We'll go hit it with some darker colors, same kind of pattern, take a little of that tan and green out, and then bring it back and show you the difference of those two. All right, so we got our sun and shadow check. Good rule of thumb is to do that, especially if we have the time. We notice it's a little light because the green isn't blending as well with the natural veg that we have. So we're just gonna dust it with that other green and a little bit more brown. Just kind of close it out. So we take some of that neon green out of it, make it a little darker, and then we can check it again, sunlight and shadow, and see if we got a little bit more matched to the environment. You can take as long and as little as time as you want on this. The paint's gonna wear off, you're gonna have to keep retouching it, so You can get patterns on Amazon for multicam and Cryptek and all these things, and they're super cool. They look great, but just be aware it's gonna wear off the gun, especially if you're wearing kit with mags. This entire side of the gun that's riding on the body is gonna scratch off, so something to keep in mind. All right, so there it is in the sun now. Looks a lot better. We don't have so much prominent bright green in that paint job. Gives it a little bit more of that, almost looks like tropical, like Tommy Bahama paint with the sawgrass in there, or whatever that is, cactus grass. Then when we move it over to the shadow, blends in quite a bit better in there without that green. We don't want anything to pop in the color scheme, so I'm comfortable with that on that side. So now we're just gonna go and we're gonna replicate the back side of it, and we'll probably leave out that more neon green to it, because now I like the way this looks. I got my natural veg pattern on there, and then we'll come back after that.
Notice if I'm having to shoot just above the bushes as well, like not everything is on the ground. As a matter of fact, very little's on the ground. But this starts helping you blend in when you get up here where you can really get seen. But there's something that you've missed, because this is just standard painting that everybody else has seen. There's something that we're gonna show you that nobody else has shown you. So you don't leave, don't you leave.